Every semester, I was so terrified that I was going to fail a course. I accumulated a lot of tips that helped me go from a failing grade to a passing grade. Hi everyone, this is Mika Kim. I'll be going through 5 tips that helped me pass a course whenever I was on the verge of failing. To give you all a quick intro about myself, I'm currently a software engineer in the US, and prior to that, I was a consultant. Now, rewind back a couple of years, in university, I was a struggling student. I hated my major, I had a very hard time keeping up with my grades, and every semester, I was so terrified that I was going to fail a course. I remember during the time, I would be crying, calling my parents, telling them that I think I'm going to fail this course again, and it was just a disaster. But during that time, because of all of my failures, I accumulated a lot of tips that helped me go from a failing grade to a passing grade. I will start off with the basics and move on to unique tips that I figured out through my personal experiences. So please stay tuned till the end of the video. Alright, so let's dive in. Number 1, if you aren't doing this already, go to class. Go to all of your classes. Yes, I know for some people, self-learning works better, but if you're failing a course, you're definitely doing something wrong. So start attending all of your classes. Even if the professor is not amazing at teaching, just by sitting through the class, you will be able to pick up keywords or things that the professor highlights to the class. Now, this is important to look out for because ultimately the concepts that they emphasize will be the things that will be on the exam. Number 2, do all of your assignments. Oftentimes, grading schemes are designed so that assignments are not worth as much as exams. So this was a typical grading scheme that I had in most of my courses during university. Assignments 20%, midterm 30%, and final exam 50%. So let's say you had a total of 10 assignments that you needed to submit. That means each assignment will only be worth 2%. Now during midterms or final exam periods, you might be very tempted to skip out on that one assignment that's due that week. Because it's like, well, this assignment's only worth 2%. And if I put in more effort into studying, maybe I'll get a higher grade in my midterm or my finals, which will be worth more. But remember that every mark counts. And all the assignments accumulated together is much bigger of a boost than you think it is. Plus, a lot of the times, professors have a lot of flexibility with grading schemes. This is obviously a very case-by-case instance, but I have definitely seen instances where professors have rebalanced the grading scheme so that assignments are worth more, so that it works in your favor. In addition to all the points that I have just said, there is also another reason why you have to go to all of your classes and do all of your assignments. I will describe that in a little bit, so stay tuned. Tip number 3, start sitting in the first or second row of your class. So I know a lot of people hate sitting in the first or second row because it makes you look like an eager student and it's very hard to not pay attention. But that's the whole point of sitting in the first row. Sit in front of the class so that the professor will remember your face and you will be able to focus. Even if you're in a rush to take notes, or even if you don't understand most of the content that's being discussed in class, you will retain at least a small portion of the class. Even if this is as little as understanding a couple of keywords, this is much better than not going to class and not retaining any of that information at all. Also, sitting in front of the class will guarantee the professor to remember your face, which will be super beneficial in the next point that I'm going to discuss. Number 4, build a rapport with your professor and go to office hours. More often than not, professors don't want their students to fail. They are not out to get you. They are not trying to trick students into getting bad grades or trying to make school miserable for you. So while keeping that in mind, if you are the professor, what kind of students would you want to help? Do you think you'd want to help out a student that doesn't go to class and that are also known to not submit assignments? Or would you want to help a student that has been attending all the classes and doing all the assignments, but just struggles to have a good grade? You have to at least show that you're putting in some kind of effort for your professor to want to help you out. I've had a personal instance where I was not doing well in this applied cryptography class that I was taking in my 4th year. I made sure that I went to all the classes, I sat in the front row, but I was just not getting good grades. And when I went to his office hours, the professor immediately recognized me and he saw my grades and he told me, Like, I know that you are working really hard. I've seen you take notes. I've seen you do all the assignments, and it really sucks that you're not getting good grades. And after that, during his office hours, he did the best of his abilities to try to coach me through the course. And at the end, I passed. So office hours are much more helpful than you think. I have had professors that went over the concepts that were confusing to me over and over again until it made sense. And some of them would even hint at specific topics that I should be focusing on while studying for the exam. Remember, the professor is the one who creates the exam. Do not lose your free tutoring time with the creator of the exam that you're going to take by not going to office hours. Finally, professors have a lot of leeway with giving grades to their student. This means they have a lot of flexibility in regards to how grades are weighted and also bell curving. And in the absolute worst case that you fail a course, it's very worthwhile to go visit your professor again. Now, don't go up to them, start yelling at their face, demanding a passing grade, or complaining about it. Just ask them to go over the final exam one more time with you. Sometimes they may realize that they harshed your exam a little too harshly, and they might be willing to give you extra points, which is essentially marks for free, and this might change your overall grade. I had an instance where I was 1 mark short from my overall grade into moving on to the next course. I visited my professor. I asked him to just walk me through my final exam so I can understand what things that I got wrong. He went through my exam and he said, well, I mean, technically you did describe this concept right, and gave me an extra point. And guess what? That extra point helped me achieve the grade that I needed to move on to the next course. Before moving on to the next tip, I want to emphasize that at the end of the day, your professors are human too. I'm not saying you have to be best buddies with them, but remember, they will be much more likely to want to help out students that they have some kind of rapport with. Now back to the video. Tip number 5, go to tutorial and TA office hours. Similar to the point that I just said, just try to go and reach out for as much help as you can. Go to tutorials and TA office hours, and don't waste your time trying to figure out these concepts that you don't understand by yourself. Also, don't feel bad for taking up their time. These TA and professor office hours are especially designated time that they reserve for students to ask questions. Don't worry about asking dumb questions. There is no such thing as a dumb question, and I mean it. In the event that a TA or a professor is rude about it, just go find another TA or another professor's office hours. It might sound annoying at first, but they will be worth it, directly and indirectly. Alright, so here are the 5 tips that helped me go from a failing grade to a passing grade. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you all again soon. Bye!